Hello, friends and fellow lovers of all things beachy. Welcome to The Beach Speaks, the podcast that shares stories about the beach and our connection to it. I'm your host and beach lover, Paige Friend, helping you reconnect with the beach, return to your soul, and reimagine your life. So grab a cool drink, relax in your beach chair, stick your toes in the sand, and enjoy this episode of The Beach Speaks. Hey, beach lover. You know, there's one thing I can count on when I step out on the beach here at sunrise. It's seeing at least a few open water swimmers gliding through the waves. I've taken so many videos of them, silhouettes in the early light, arms rising and stretching into the perfect freestyle stroke, swim caps, goggles, sometimes wetsuits, sometimes not, but always someone with a buoy trailing behind. I watch them and I think, why am I not out there? I've always been a good swimmer. It's been a part of my life for so long. But then I think, that water is cold. And honestly, I really enjoy sitting at the water's edge, on the sand, meditating and soaking in the peace and calm. Still, there's something about open water that I miss. That connection, the freedom. I just needed a little nudge to dive back in. And that's when my friend Jenn Yorzyk-Triger came to mind. She's the perfect person to inspire me and the perfect guest for the podcast. Jenn and I swam together in college at Mount Holyoke in the mid-'80s. We had lost touch after graduation, but reconnected in 2020, on Facebook, of course. While many of us were stuck on the couch doomscrolling, Jenn was posting backyard workouts, nutrition tips, mindset shifts, just doing her thing and inspiring so many of us to get up off that couch and back on the path to healthy living. Since the days I knew her in college, Jenn's never lost her love for swimming, especially open water swimming. It's in her genes. I mean, her father was an Olympic gold medalist after all. I can't wait for you to hear that story. So grab your swim cap and goggles and let's dive in. Hey, Jenn. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
I'm so glad
happy
that
to be here.
I know. I'm so glad that you said yes to talking to me today because you and I have, we've known each other for a long time. However, we have not spoken in years.
Yeah.
Because, oh my gosh, it was, shall we say, back in the late 80s when we were in college together.
Exactly. Mid. Let's be real. The mid 80s.
Mid 80s. Okay. Well, you know, we have reached a certain level in life. I turned level 60 recently, and I know that you are part of that group, and we are doing fabulous things now. I know there's a lot going on with you, and I wanted first to ask you the question that I ask all my guests, and that is, how is the beach speaking to you today?
So I live near the beach, but it's not a warm beach, except in the summer, because I live in Vancouver, BC, right? So I look over the water, over the beach, to the mountains, and I was skiing yesterday, and then I was at the beach on my way home, going in the water. So the beach is pretty much always calling me to do something there.
All right. So I'm going to stop you right there because you went skiing and then you went to the beach. Tell me how that goes.
It's a classic Vancouver day to go snowshoeing or skiing in the mountains, which I guess it takes me 45 minutes to get there from my side of the bay. And from the mountain, I can send you some pictures. You can see the beach and the water.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. That's the view. We have on one side, you have the Canadian Rockies going up to Whistler, and on the other side, you have the bay and the beaches. So you just drive home, and I actually put my suit on in the bathroom on the mountain so that I, not every time, but the last, at least once or twice a week, the last few weeks, so that then I can go do a very short cold immersion on my way home from skiing
Mm-hmm.
because the water is not warm. It's about 8.5 degrees Celsius. I guess that's in the 40s.
Ouch.
So it's still the beach, though,
I
Paige.
know, I know. Well, that was one reason I wanted to talk to you because you do a lot of open water swimming. I mean, and that is a huge part of what you're doing in your life
hmm
now.
hmm
And that water swimming has been an integral part of your life growing up. I
hmm
mean, from
hmm
birth, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I know about your father,
hmm
and I would love for you to share a little bit with my audience
hmm
about your father because I think he's just an amazing man. And well, you tell us about him.
Okay. So I'm going to tell the story as if you don't know he's my father.
Okay,
Okay. Like I tell to a lot of people because I think it's more fun that way
I
rather
like
than
it. I
just
like it.
reciting a biography.
I love it.
So I want to tell you a story about a man who back in the 50s was in high school in Massachusetts. And he really wanted to join a team sport. He tried out for basketball, football, baseball, swimming, everything. He didn't make any team. So he decided to become the towel boy for the swim team, which, obviously we don't have those anymore, but they
The
used to have
towel
them.
boy.
The towel boy. Yeah, kind of like the team manager, I guess, like he helped out. So, and one of the tasks he was asked to do was to bring in a speaker for the end of the year banquet. By the way, which is a very American thing to have a banquet. It's I've learned, yeah. And he found a gentleman who was the professor of physical education and the swim coach at Springfield College, which was about 45 minutes from him. So the gentleman came up, Charles Sylvia, and he talked to the team. And this guy, his name's Bill, he was really fascinated by this man. And so he decided that he would go to Springfield College. And he went to college very young. He started his first year when he was 15. So at that time in the 50s, in order to go from freshman to sophomore year, you needed to pass a swimming test and a water safety test. Well, this guy couldn't swim, could never swim in his life. He came from Polish immigrants, moved to Western Massachusetts. Swimming was not in the equation. So he obviously needed some special extra sessions to pass those tests, and he did because he went on to his sophomore year. But during that time, his freshman year, the coach said to him, "Well, I don't know what you're doing this summer, but you seem to learn this pretty quickly. So if you really want to learn how to swim, meaning competitive swimming, why don't you come up to this camp with me in New Hampshire, where I'm the waterfront director, and we'll rope out some lanes in the lake, and I'll really teach you how to swim." So 5 years later, that guy won a gold medal in the butterfly and swam the butterfly the first time in history in an international competition the way it's swum today. So, and his name's Bill Yorzyk. That's my dad.
5 years.
Yeah,
5 years.
5 years. He was 21 when he swam in the Olympics. And so I guess by the time they got started, he was 16, the second half of his freshman year. Yeah, 5 years. So that's why in our family, like the family I was born into and the family I gave birth to, we never think it's too late to start anything, ever. It's always, we're not done yet. If you really want to do something, go put yourself into it. And I was just listening to a piece of a podcast today with Matthew McConaughey, who said, listen, if you're just going to dabble, why even do it? Because you're never going to know if you succeed or you're going to fail. So either do it or don't do it. And I feel like that has like embedded in my genes. Because if I think about 5 years to get to that point and some of the stories I've heard, like, for example, he went to Springfield College for, I think it was outdoor education. He was an Eagle Scout. He wanted to be the head of the Boy Scouts of America. So he would go in between classes. If he had 20 minutes, he'd go swim, right? It didn't matter how much time was there. And then he'd sit in class and he would do ankle rotations and ankle flexes and dorsiflexes. So he was always working on it. He didn't end up in outdoor education, but that's how he kind of set himself up.
Did he swim at a master's level? And, or, well, I mean, you know, after the
Eventually.
Olympics, I mean, what do you do after the Olympics? I mean, I'm sure he kept swimming.
Well, he went on his way home from the Olympics. So he had qualified in a couple of events, but his coach had him focus on the 200-meter butterfly. And it's on YouTube. There's lots of video coverage, not of the prelims, which to me is the most interesting because we have an 8mm film of that when he's like 30 meters ahead of everyone else because they're swimming butterfly with a breaststroke kick. And he's swimming it with a dolphin kick.
Dolphin kick.
Yeah. So he's not the first one to swim it with a dolphin kick. He's the first one to swim it with the 2-beat kick, how it's swum today. So, and that's actually not a FINA rule. You can use as many kicks as you want, but that was the one that has become the most popular. And there's also some videos about he, Gross, and Phelps, because those are the 3 big benchmarks in the butterfly evolution. So he did swim masters. So when he graduated, I'll go back to my Olympic story. His coach had him focus on the 200-meter butterfly. So he didn't even swim the other events. And on the way back home on the plane, I don't know how the conversation came up. That is, unfortunately, my dad's passed now. And so I don't have a way to ask him. But through conversations with Coach Sylvia, he decided to become a medical doctor. So he went to University of Toronto and for his medical school, he was the swim coach and swam because in Canada you could swim for more years than in the US. And he still was setting all-American records and things like that. And then from there, he had to do his internship and his residency and all that kind of stuff. And he went through all of that stage. And he did come back into masters. And he actually matched his Olympic 200-meter butterfly time in a masters championship when he was like 48 years old. He was also pretty focused back then, too. That's the time I knew him, obviously. So.
Yeah. So you swam competitively, of course. Did you feel like you had to, or did you just feel like that innate sense of, yeah, this is my jam too?
So my memory is that I loved it and that was just what I wanted to do. I know I have 2 younger brothers and there was always a discussion about, well, you don't actually have to swim, but you have to do a sport. And so I know that they tried some other sports. But it's interesting that you ask me that because I was just talking to my son about this. And I have said, I believe I said to my children the same thing. But I also know I said to them, you at least need to keep swimming until you're 15 so you really know how to swim, even if it ends up being once a week. So there's some mixed messaging in there. So at this stage in the game, I don't actually remember if I had to swim, but certainly it's the only sport that our family knew. And it is definitely, it was like going to Mount Holyoke. It wasn't the school I actually first chose, but it was definitely the right place for me. I've lived all over the world and going in the water is like going home when I wasn't home.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, I love that. So you now do a lot of open water swimming. Tell me about that part of your life and how that is evolving and what's going on. I wanted to hear about that. And then like we talked about before, like the differences between open water swimming in the East Coast and the West Coast, because I know you've got stories about that. So tell me all about it.
Yeah. I guess I first got into open water swimming in the 90s when I decided I had stopped swimming after college. And that's when I got into other sports. And then I was in Asia at that time. And then when I finally ended up in the Netherlands, this would have been the early 90s, I decided to do a triathlon. So I joined a swimming club, a triathlon swimming club. And that was wonderful. It's an instant way to have a social network when you move to a new city, right? And those were all in the open water. So I started to swim in open water. And then after a while, I was swimming in the pool too, workouts. And I don't remember how long I did that or if I stopped and started again. I don't really have a clear memory of that. But I do know when I moved to France, we moved to an area that was 20 minutes to the beach, like big, big wave, wild, great, awesome beaches, and 20 minutes to the largest area lake in all of France. So there was lots of opportunities for me to swim. So I started every Friday swimming in the lake, and my kids, they're very happy in the water. They're very much like me. They're very happy in the water, but their dad is a non-swimmer. So that's funny.
That
Yeah.
is funny.
Yeah.
How ironic.
Yeah. So I started to want to do some open water swim events just to kind of, it's never too late, right? You're never done. Always need a challenge. And the first one I signed up for was in the Seine because I was in France still. And all my French friends were saying, oh, no, you can't swim in that water. It's dirty. I'm like, no, they're going to clean it up. Well, no, that didn't work. It was canceled. That was long before the Olympics, right? I'm like,
right.
oh, okay.
Like swimming in the Hudson. Sure.
I know. So in the meantime, like during all those years, I was an avid scuba diver also. So, I mean, the water's always been like my place. So when I had kids, I brought them to our family home on a lake every summer. And that's where I really started swimming more consistently as my exercise, as a way to escape, as a way to, take care of myself and have some private time, supported by the times I was doing that in France in the lakes. And when we moved to Vancouver, I continued to do that, but it was much more challenging to me because the water was so cold and I wasn't used to swimming in the ocean. And it's actually one of the gifts of 2020 is that the swim group that my kids belong to that I'd been assistant coaching for, they started an open water program because they couldn't swim in the pools. And so I would take the younger ones, the more beginning swimmers who couldn't go with the bigger group, and I would just take them. And it's kind of one of those things that when you love something so much, you're not doing it to force them into a pattern or shape or workout, or you just want them to fall in love with the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were all okay swimmers in a pool. So that's where I started. And then I thought to myself, well, I should just come down here and swim every day before I teach. So that's how it all started. And then my dad passed away in 2020, not of 2020 causes, just things. And his anesthesiologist for pain management was an old swimmer. So they kind of bonded. The whole family kind of got to know each other. And about a year later, my brother, my mom, and I got these hand-drawn pictures each three of us in the mail. And this doctor had supplied a local woman who gave free swimming lessons in one of the lakes in his town, some swimming supplies, etc. And he came in honor of my dad's memory and told them the story about my dad. And I thought to myself, well, I could do this. I should do this because I love to teach swimming. I love to, and coaching swimming, teaching, it's not my profession. It's just because I wanted to. I love to inspire adults to be comfortable in the water. I love to inspire adults to go after a new goal. I live on a lake in the summer. I love to open water swim. And I had been looking for a 3-mile event in our area in Massachusetts, and there wasn't any. I said, okay, well, I'm going to start one. And then it's just blossomed from there. It's called the Wild Bill Swim. And the first year, the money went into a clean water project that our specific lake was working on. And then from that year on, we're going into our 4th year this August. All the money goes into the local school system to teach the 3rd graders introduction to water safety and swimming during the school day. So parents don't have to worry about it. The kids aren't too tired. We supply bathing suits if they're needed. We have some kids who've never been in any kind of body of water. Which is
That's hard to imagine.
I know. Yeah. And we have all the levels of kids who need extra help at school, whether it's physical or emotional, whatever it is, they're all in the water. And none of the teachers are swimmers, and they thought it was going to be chaos, but you can't have chaos at a pool. So
no,
it's going
I can imagine.
very well.
I mean, I don't know how it would be a teacher not knowing how to swim and then watching all these kids jumping in and the anxiety that I would feel.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we have the local YMCA who does the lessons, and my goal is to have every child be able to float and or tread water for up to 5 minutes after 4 classes, because that's what we can provide. But the second goal is to get the parents to come back and re-engage with the YMCA and have them take lessons and things like that. So there's a little bit of a ripple effect. And I just actually scheduled the second Zoom meeting with all the 3rd grade parents and next year's 3rd grade parents, because the kids learn certain things about water safety, but parents don't always have the same idea. So we just want to make sure that, everyone's on the same page.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, I have a soft spot in my heart for the YMCA because that is where I got introduced into competitive swimming. I don't know if I had taken swimming lessons per se before that. I don't really think so. I think I just jumped in the water and figured it out myself. But my brother wasn't as good as that, so my mother had enrolled him. I don't know, he was like in kindergarten or something. I remember he was really little.
Yeah.
He joined the swim team, I guess, basically. To learn how to swim. And I went to the Y and I was sitting there watching and I was thinking, this looks like fun. I could do this.
Yeah.
And so I asked my mom, I said, hey, can I sign up? And she said, yeah, that's great. And then that's how it all started. Put me in the water and I'm just going to go. But
yeah, you did too. You were a sprinter. So yes, you did.
Yeah. And go I did. So let's talk more about this open water swimming deal because now you're living in Vancouver and you also live in Massachusetts part of the year, right?
I'm still more time in Vancouver, but I do spend quite a lot of time in Massachusetts.
So take me on an open water swim where you are in Vancouver. What's it like?
Well, it depends on the time of year. I will start actually swimming probably in a week or 2. I use a big, thick wetsuit. It's a very popular pastime here in Vancouver. I have a group of friends of all nationalities, Norwegian, French, Canadian, Quebecois, it's a great group. And they swim in bathing suits all year round at 6:30 in the morning. They actually started a new name for themselves in the winter when it's dark called the Naked Beavers. So you guys can just figure that out for yourself. I'm not explaining it.
I love it.
It's hysterical. Yeah. And they're all one of them's turning 70 on Saturday. They're wonderful women.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll actually drive down my hill because I need a car at the other end because it is cold when you get out.
Yeah.
Right. So at this time of year, the water's going to be 45. When the snow starts to melt, it warms up. And then as the snow starts to melt on the mountains and it comes down the river and dumps into the bay where we are, then the water, so it gets warmer and then it gets colder and then it gets warmer again. So every day is a surprise.
You never know.
Yeah. And the bay that I like to swim in has some swimming buoys that make a 500-meter lap back and forth. But you can also swim all the way down the coast. You can swim up and around the jetty to another beach further in. And you start very slow, right? I mean, the first time you might swim 4 minutes, the first time, or 6, and then 8, and then 10. And so it's not necessarily a workout in the beginning. It's just getting back in the open water. And then as the temperatures get warmer, I use a thin triathlon wetsuit just because it feels like a little safety blanket for me. But again, not Most people don't do that here. And in this little bay that I have, sometimes I've got a seal kind of drafting off my right foot.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
yeah, just
Oh.
kind of playing. It's really cute. Yeah. Yeah. And the first time I actually swam in the really cold water here was the first year I moved here. I went down to San Francisco, and an old friend of mine from the time I lived in the Netherlands doing triathlons is a big open water swimmer, and they've got two big open water groups that are based out of, it's called the Marine Park or the Aqua Park. Like Diane and I had used to belong to one of them. They're just really old and established since like the end of the 1880s or something. They're
Wow.
rowing and swimming groups. And he's like, come on, we're going swimming. And they swim in just their regular bathing suit all year round, and they'll swim 5 miles in like March. Well, I didn't do that. I think I swam maximum 20 minutes.
How do you
And I was,
avoid hypothermia?
well, it's actually amazing how your body adapts.
Really?
That's why it's a slow ramp up process, right? I also belong or participate in a cold immersion group every Sunday where a group of us get together and just go in the water and just kind of stand there and talk, and just for the health benefits of that. And you should never do that for 10 minutes at the beginning. You should start very, very slowly. And you always go in feet first, not head first, so that your body knows what's coming. Because if there's going to be a danger in what's going to happen to you, it's going to be if you dive in right away, right? Like off a dock or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The body is an incredible thing. And it's truly, I did an interview with a woman named Charlotte Bryn, who lives on a big lake up in Vermont. And we talked exactly about that. How do you acclimatize yourself to cold water swimming so that you can get in the water sooner for the season, open water season in the summer? And I've got friends I have the swimming group I started with the Wild Bill Swim on Wednesday and Saturday. And they're like, these tall, skinny drinks of water, right? And I can't swim. I don't have any body fat. Well, so is she, right? It's all mental. It's all our brain telling us, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't do that, because it's trying to protect us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you do it in a smart way, it doesn't have a negative impact on you. So,
okay, so the beach isn't quite like we think the beach is here on the East Coast. There's a lot of rocks, and it seems I don't know, to me, the waves are really active, or is it not so much?
It's not exactly like that, no. Where we swim, it's called English Bay, so it really is, Vancouver's cut into two sides, the north and west side and the other side, and so you're protected from really the wild ocean. Okay. There is one beach I like to go to. I don't swim there, though, but just to dip, that's much more wild. We have big tides, so when the tides are out, they're pretty far out, but it's sand, it's not rocks. So actual beach life is full of families and picnics and volleyball nets and there's big swaths of beach like that. Vancouver is a very active city, so you'll have, 30 volleyball games going on between two different beaches it's probably started already. Actually, I've seen it started already. So it is a normal or a more normal beach life. The sand isn't like super fine and white.
Right.
It's a little darker. There's big, huge logs on the beach that people use kind of like to sit against, that are put there by the city. But those are the logs that are found. This is a big logging area. So the ones that escape and then are found on the beach, and then they use them.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Fabulous. What a way to reintegrate nature.
Yeah.
Into the mix. We've talked about what open water swimming is like on the West Coast. What's it like then on the East Coast? Tell me about that.
Right. So where I swim, I'm a lake swimmer, and especially in the Northeast because shark activity has increased so much. Oh, yeah. In Massachusetts, especially. I do one ocean event up in Maine. I've done that a couple times. It's a 2.2 mile around a little peninsula. It's called the Nubble Lighthouse. It's a wonderful location. But my big love is lake swimming. And I remember when I was starting the Wild Bill Swim and starting to write some press releases and starting to focus on trying to communicate what it's like to swim in open water in a lake. And one of the things that I really feel every time, not when the water's really cold, but something about sweet water when it just is like the right temperature. It's kind of like your whole entire body's being massaged by velvet at the same time. It's like this beautiful sensation of the water going by you and just like washing everything away, and just that it's just beautiful. The sun shining and the trees, and you turn one way to breathe, you see the sun coming through the trees. You turn another way, you might see an osprey or an eagle diving into to hunt. It's just beautiful.
I mean, that just made me think about when I was in high school. I was transitioning from sprinting to long distance, and I was now swimming the 500.
Oh, yeah.
And I was pretty confident about that. I was doing pretty well, and my grandfather had a house at a nearby lake. It was a man-made lake, but it was very big. And from his house, you could see across the lake, and there was a little beachy area, man-made beach, whatever. And I thought, I bet I could swim from his house over there. I mean, yeah, I'm a long distance swimmer, it's fine.
Right.
And I remember getting in and just, I think I just told my mom, hey, I'm going to go swim over there. And my mother was like, okay. And I just jumped in, and I do remember being freaked out by I don't know, the not seagrass, but whatever was under there. And as I get over that, I remember just swimming, and it really so different from being in a pool or the ocean. It was really that kind of still, smooth water, and I just swam and swam and swam until I got to the end, and then took a break, hung out on the beach a little bit, and then swam back. And my mother was in a panic because she didn't know really. She thought something could have happened to you along the way. Why didn't someone go out in a canoe along with you or something?
Yeah.
After the fact, I thought, oh, I'm fine. I know how to float. Yeah. I can float my way back, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of not everyone does it, but it is much safer to swim not alone, like with one other person or a couple other people, or have someone on the beach. It is one of the safety rules that we should follow. The other one is to wear one of those swim buoys that go around your waist and then that kind of float behind you with a bright neon color. In our lake, there's boats, so we make sure we stay along that side unless there is someone kayaking with us, and we wouldn't do that in peak boat time. So those are some of the basic safety rules. But it's funny you said, oh, I think I can just swim over there, because in the first Wild Bill swim, we had a lot of very new open water swimmers, and they started exactly that way because it's a very lake intense area. So, oh, I'm on my dock. Oh, I could swim to my neighbor's dock. Oh, I can swim 5 more docks over. And then the week after, 5 more. And then they end up at a mile. And it's just like, wow, I could really do that. That's how we ended up with, I think our oldest 1 mile swimmer was 82 last year. She swam every year. And the youngest was 9 years old.
Oh my.
Yeah. Very experienced, because, I'm up there at the starting line and I'm like, okay, so I see these kids and I'm like, oh my, usually they swim the 400-yard swim that we have specifically for them. And I said, you want to swim the mile? Yes. You've done this before. Oh, many times. And they listed all their times. I'm like, okay, good. Go for it. Oh yeah, my dad's in the 3 mile. So it's really cute.
When you were doing triathlons, did you feel like you had an advantage because you were a good swimmer? 'Cause I felt like that.
Oh yeah, I did, until we had to bike and run.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about your first triathlon. How did that go? I'm curious.
Oh, my first one. Oh, gosh. Well, biking was new-ish to me, at least on a road bike. But I was living in the Netherlands where everybody biked. And I had met a gentleman who was a long retired, internationally ranked bike racer who became a really good friend of mine. And he actually came on the route behind me, yelling at me what to do. Don't stand up, shift your gear. I was like, oh my God, I'm a little embarrassed, but okay. So that was interesting. I think the thing I remember most was that my swim coach handed me a beer when I crossed the finish line. And I'm like, I cannot drink that. But there's two other events that I remember a lot. My first half Ironman, I was falling apart in the run. And it was like there was an angel that appeared. It was another runner. He was much more experienced, and something had happened. I don't know exactly what. And he saw I was struggling. And he just stayed with me and talked me through most of it. And then he took off for the last 5K. And I could never find him again. It was just like magic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you did have an angelic visitor with you to
Yeah.
carry you through.
I think so.
I remember those days. I had never done a half, but I'd done an Olympic, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
like, and I enjoyed that. It was actually at the beach in Florida, in Sarasota.
Mm.
The swim was an open water swim in the Gulf, and typically the Gulf is pretty placid. I mean, there's not a whole lot of waves or anything like that. There just happened to have been, like, I don't know, a rainstorm or something that happened the night before, and it was pretty choppy.
Yeah.
And everybody was having a hard time swimming straight and, following where they needed to go. And I don't know, I miraculously stayed on course, swam pretty well, got out. And then, the transition, I got to get on the bike and do that. And I just kind of found my groove, and I thought, okay, I'll just get to the run, and I'm running. And you know how they write your age on your arm and your leg or whatever?
Oh, it's your age. I thought it's a number. It's not your age. It's
no, they gave us our age because we would be in a certain age group. And this woman, I think I was like 41 or something like that. And she was, I swear, no, we had a number, but they would write, I don't know. I just remember this woman had 62
Wow.
on her. And I thought, I got to keep up with this woman. She's 62. I need to do this. Yeah. So I caught up with her on the run, and we were running together. And then we turn a corner. We're running through the neighborhood and stuff like that. We turn a corner, and the last, I want to say, quarter mile is on the beach.
Oh.
Which I thought,
wow.
Oh, okay. Sand, running on sand.
Yes.
It is not easy. We ran out as far as we could to the edge of the water. Yeah. And at the time, people were getting ready they were getting their beach on. I mean, they were bringing out their chairs to the water, and I'm trying to run in and out of these people thinking, don't you know we have this race going on? Get out of my way. Get out of the way. But Sarasota, this was Siesta Key, actually, the sand there is super fine. And yeah, the last, I want to say 100 yards, you had to race through this really super soft sand to end at the parking lot. I thought, this is it. I'm going to die right here.
Yeah,
and
almost there.
Where is this 62-year-old woman now? I need help. I did not have an angel to help me through. Yeah. I, plodded in. I ended up, I think they gave awards to the top 4 in your age group, and I missed placing 4th by, I want to say, 15 seconds or something, really, really, like, I wanted to just do it all over again because I thought, I can make up 15 seconds. It was that beach that got to me,
And now I know.
Now I know. Yeah, so, I don't know, word of the wise, I guess. Yeah. Look at the map of the route before you.
Yeah. But, we had in the swimming groups that I do, we had a woman who's originally from Massachusetts who lives in St. Petersburg, Florida, and she competes in open water swims and triathlons there. And when she came to swim with us, she's like, wait a minute, this is a lake. Are you sure it's safe? Because she's used to alligators.
That's right. Yeah.
So she was serious. And the first time we swam together, she's much faster than me. She stayed with me, so I didn't know she was faster than me because she didn't really know where we were going. But, in a lake, it's pretty easy. But also I think she just didn't she's like, well, there could be an alligator in here. It's like ingrained in her because in Florida, that is very easily true. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But that's
For
what I
sure.
found is that when I started the Open Water Wednesdays, I had people start to come who were very comfortable and actually very good swimmers in the pool, like fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guys, women, all different ones. But the majority of them were really scared in open water
Mm.
because they're like, well, I can't see and I don't know, and they would start to hyperventilate. So I went back to my roots of, okay, I'm just going to help people love this. And you
Mm-hmm.
just, interrupting their pattern. And, as a swimmer, like when somebody's uncomfortable, they'll just kind of put their head over water and they'll do a really fast kind of breaststroke. But if you
Right.
do that, you really contract all of your respiratory system, your lungs, your abs, and you can't breathe. It's like you're putting yourself into anxiety.
Yeah.
So I would have them turn on their back and relax and like look at the sky and get grounded and catch your breath and then start again. And
Mm-hmm.
we do that again when I start to help them learn how to acclimatize to the cold water, because you don't know you're going to get an ice cream headache.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's real. And you
Yeah.
have to do the same thing. You have to turn over and just let your head relax and then go back again. And so, yeah, there's all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of different funny things, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
that made me think about a conversation I had with the founder of Waterlust, and we were talking about riptides
Mm-hmm.
and what you do when you get caught in one. He
Mm.
did a whole study in Australia with a gentleman who was studying riptides and
Mm.
basically how to get out of one,
Mm-hmm.
the best way to swim out of
Wow.
one, that sort of thing. And I always thought that I'm not going to rush right into a riptide.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of the riptide warnings and all that
Mm-hmm.
here where we are. But if I were, or if I were in the water and I was starting to feel a little, all I needed to do was just roll over, float for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe, tread water, just, okay,
Mm-hmm.
kind of go with the flow, might take me out a little bit,
Yeah.
but eventually the tide will bring me back in, or
Mm-hmm.
I can relax and just swim along the shore till I'm out of it.
Right.
And I do remember that was the first thing that we taught little ones at the pool was just how to float,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
just, and that, I know they do that with babies too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how they teach them the water safety. But
Mm-hmm.
that's one of my favorite things to do, especially in the salt water,
Oh, yeah.
is to just float.
Yeah. And just, especially in the salt water, because you feel so supported. Right?
Yeah.
Because you're so much more buoyant. And I think it's one of those great nervous system, what is it? Not grounding, but relaxing, or
Like a
I don't,
reset kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that I have floating as one of the outcomes of our swim program, which is a
Mhm.
swim program that I put together with the daughter of my father's swim coach. So there's lots of history there.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. She's the one who taught me how to swim. And when
Really?
I was 3, I knew every muscle in the body because that's how you teach swimming in their world, right? Every muscle in
Right.
the body. We learned how to swim based on physics. I used to have physics lectures, like the law of levers and inertia and all of that when I was 2, 3, 4, 5, like, yeah. But when children or people have had any kind of traumatic experiences around water, whether it was them or someone close to them or they were there, to switch that, if you give them a good experience and then they float in the water to integrate it into their nervous
Oh,
system and into their neurology, it really starts to make a change at a much deeper level.
yeah, that makes perfect sense because you just change that neural pathway
Mm-hmm.
that will react to that. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and your body somatically
Exactly.
will carry that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Didn't
Yeah.
think about that. Finish there with the float.
Yeah.
Except
Yeah.
when you're doing a triathlon, because then you got to get out of the water and
Exactly.
you got to get on that bike. But anyway,
Exactly. Oh, I've got some really crazy, funny triathlon stories, but that's another
yeah, we can talk
chat.
triathlons another time. We'll get into that and then never get out of it. coming back to your father
Mm-hmm.
and swimming and how in 5 years he went to really not knowing how to swim to gold medalist. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, what do you think he would be telling us today about swimming?
Well, I listened for so many years to him talk about the swimming he was watching on the TV screen and talk about his experiences at multiple different Olympics, not as a participant, but as a spectator, or he was a commentator for the Tokyo Olympics and, that kind of thing. And I think, well, first of all, he would be amazed. I mean, they just broke 40 seconds for the 100-meter freestyle of the NCAAs, like amazed at how fast they can go. And I also think that he watching Michael Phelps, because the one who really was the big one after my father was Mark Spitz, for example,
Hmm.
with 7 gold medals and, things like that. And then I think there's so many more components to be a successful swimmer today, athlete, swimmer, than there was back then. I mean, if I look at pictures of athletes back then and athletes today are ripped, right? They're jacked. They're like working out. They're like, they got their nutrition down. My dad didn't look that way. And he was eating like he'd make a pot of spaghetti sauce at the beginning of the week and he'd eat spaghetti for the whole week with the same sauce, and he'd take the mold off the top, right? I mean, that was the stories we heard. So I just think he would really be amazed at the true athleticism that swimmers have. And he was someone who always felt that swimmers were the most athletic until he came to my Ironman and he watched me compete. And then he's like, wow, these are some real athletes. So I think he would have grown into a true respect for the athleticism that it takes to become a swimmer at the level that people are swimming at today.
Yeah. And then I'm thinking it's never too late. Like you said, it's a mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can just get in the water.
Yeah.
So,
And part of the Just Get in the Water program that I do with the kids, I go into the school and I talk to all of them near the end of the program and I tell them the story about this guy I know from Northampton, like I told you.
yeah.
And they always clap and they cheer and they're amazed. And then I pull out the most important piece to me, which is no matter what you want to do, it's never too late to start doing it. But you have to be the one who focuses on it. You have to be the one who puts the work in, whether it's, I don't know, learning a language, whether it's becoming an art, whatever it is. I tried to bring in other modalities besides sports because I am in a school situation.
Right.
And my son, who just, I mean, we were on a family swim team until we moved here to Vancouver. And he didn't start swimming seriously till he's 15. And now he's 19 and he's really a serious swimmer who with some big goals, which are his to have and share, not mine. But it's all self-driven because he was in a group where he was in the lower of the skill groups of his age.
Mm-hmm.
And just because he'd never had 5, 6, 7, 8 practices a week his whole life before we moved here. 2 were the max. So he realized one day, actually, it was at my dad's memorial party that we had for him, where all these Springfield College people that had become coaches. At one point in the 70s, Springfield College had something like 75% of the top swimming coaches in the world, in the US, excuse me.
Wow.
And they all were there for that because they were there during that, when my father was like a mentor to the team. And he realized what a good coach could be like, what swimming could be like. It's not just get in the water and swim.
Mm-hmm.
And he came home and he said, Mom, I realize the people in my group, they don't have the same goals as I do. So can we put together some other parts of my athletic program? So we put together a lifting program. He went to extra technique work. So if you want to do something, it's always up to you. You just have to get started. But like I heard Matthew McConaughey say today, either do it or don't do it so you can measure yourself.
Well, that's true. If you don't do it, you're never going to know.
Yeah.
I felt that way with this podcast. I mean, I had it
Yeah.
all ready to go and all I had to do was just press that button to send it out in the world. And I thought, how can I do this? And I thought, you know what? Just do it. You won't know if anybody is going to listen to it if you don't put it out there for people to listen to.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think our brains hold us back in so many areas. And that's actually a topic I would love to be able to talk to my dad about if I was going to choose one, because my dad was a groundbreaker in a lot of areas. He was, back in the 50s, he was an Eagle Scout. Not everybody did that. Then with his swimming, then he switched from outdoor education to medicine. And then he's the one who brought pain clinics and the ICU to Massachusetts. So we assume that pain clinics and ICUs have always existed, but they haven't. I think he went down to Johns Hopkins to study it. And then he's the one who introduced it to the Massachusetts medical world. So I am sure that he had pushback in all of these areas. And sometimes we just have to go with what's inside us and say, no, this is the thing. I mean, something as silly as, it's not silly to me, but as me setting up this swim, it's basically, there were 4 people involved. My friend Ileana, who is really kind of like the floats underneath me, who did a lot of the background work and really pushed me to say, Jen, you light up when you talk about this. You have to do it. And then there was me, myself, and I. And I had so many of our neighbors, a lot of people jumped in the beginning, and then they saw me starting the second year, and they come to me and say, oh, this is really your last year, don't you think? I'm like, no, you don't get it.
You're just getting started.
I'm just getting started. The next plan is to expand this into other communities in the U.S. So if anybody out there is interested in having an open water swim or having a swim program through the schools, please reach out, because that's what our nonprofit board is now working towards, is how can we be ready to scale what we've done here.
Great. I think it's a wonderful place to end, because I'm hoping that this conversation has sparked interest in somebody who's listening, who's been thinking about, oh, I want to get back into swimming or expand my swimming experience and share it with others. So I will definitely put your contact information in the show notes so people can.
That's great. I would love that.
Reach you. Yeah. And we'll get the word out.
Yeah. I also have a YouTube channel called The Wild Bill Swim that is interviews there's so much gold in there, various levels of open water swimmers and coaches, pool swimmers and coaches, on strategies. I have a program if you're looking to swim 5K, 10K, or 10 mile. What can you do in the pool now to get you ready for that if you're in an area where you can't get into the open water right away? So I've got all those programs that I'm very happy to share.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Jen, for chatting with me today. I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm so glad that we reconnected.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Such good memories.
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy memories that don't always have to do with swimming.
No. This was college.
Exactly.
We had fun.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. The beach is speaking. Are you listening? Well, that's it for today. Thanks for diving in with me. If this conversation with Jen sparked something in you, maybe a reminder of your love for the water or a curiosity about open water swimming, just know it's never too late to get back in. The ocean is always waiting. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend. It's one of the best ways to help the podcast grow, and you never know who might be inspired to take that first stroke. The beach is speaking. Are you ready for a swim? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Beach Speaks. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the beachy vibes and share it with a friend. Because, let's be honest, who doesn't want more beach in their lives? And if more beach is what you crave, go to thebeachspeaks.com and sign up for my newsletter. It's an easy way to stay in the know, collect some tips and travel hacks for your next beach adventure, and find out what I'm doing at the beach.
And if you want to dive deeper into the ocean of support, consider becoming a Beach Speaks Patreon member. Your contribution helps keep the podcast afloat, and you'll enjoy some cool perks that only our Patreon family gets to enjoy. The beach is speaking. Are you listening?